And these are some things that might save you money right now, but they'll end up costing you a lot more long term. What's up everyone, David here with Free2Be, and today I want to share with you some things that might sound like good opportunities to cut corners and save a little extra dough, but they will actually end up costing you a lot more money on the back end. So these are things that you don't actually want to skimp out on because quality does matter, and I think everyone should be aware of them. Now, before I share this list, if you are new to my channel, I cover financial literacy here in an effort to track my progress to financial independence, and hopefully by doing that, I'm creating valuable content that others can use in their pursuit of financial independence as well. So if you are new to the channel or haven't done so already, please take a moment and just click the subscribe button down below. I really do appreciate the support, and it only takes 1 second to click that button. And if you're not new, thank you for coming back. All right, so the first item on this list is something that a lot of us probably thought that we could even live our lives without, until we started working from home, and that is a printer. Now, it sounds a little weird talking about a printer in 2021, but given the current situation and basically the situation going forward, a lot more people are going to be working at home for a lot longer periods of time, or maybe just shifting to work from home forever. So something you're going to need is a printer. Now, printers are interesting because you can find printers for as cheap as $30 to $40 or as expensive as $200 to $300, or even more if you're trying to get something that's meant for more of a professional or something that might be a little more heavy duty. But a lot of people end up spending a little bit less because they don't want to actually fork over the few $100s to get a good one, only to realize that the cheaper printer that they purchased, A, runs through ink a lot faster, and B, when they go to replace those ink cartridges, they are hit with that sticker shock of $70 to $80 cartridges for a $30 printer or a $50 printer. So when you're shopping for a printer, it's important to do some research. A, make sure that the volume the printer prints at is a substantial amount so that you get the most out of each cartridge that you have to buy. And B, when you go to actually buy the printer, make sure you spend a few minutes to see what the price of the replacement cartridges are going to be. So if you're like me and you have been considering buying a printer over the past few weeks, don't necessarily go for the cheapest option available. Do a little bit more digging, see what the capabilities of the printer are, and definitely check out the price of those replacement cartridges first. The next item on this list is purchasing a home. Now, a lot of people are just foregoing home ownership to begin with these days, but if you are interested in owning a property, make sure you don't cut any corners. It's not necessarily going to be worth for you to try to save a little bit more money by going a little further out or buying a house that might need some additional work, because A, you might end up not getting a good return on the investment you make, but B, if you buy a house that needs some work, who knows how much more work it's actually going to need, and you could end up in a money pit type situation. So when it comes to homeownership, it's again one of those things that you're really going to want to evaluate if it's the right move for you. Because honestly, in today's world, there's nothing wrong with renting, especially if you want to be fluid and be able to move around as you please. The important takeaway to homeownership is that realizing your money is going to be invested for you long term, so you want to make sure you get the most out of that investment. Don't just move to an area and overpay for a home without doing your homework. Don't just purchase a fixer-upper without understanding the total scope of all the projects you're going to have to undertake. Treat it as a long-term investment and make sure your money is going to be able to grow for you so that when you do eventually sell that home, you'll get a good return on that investment. Now, the next thing that is actually not a good spend on money for a lot of people is going to warehouse stores and buying items in bulk. If you live by yourself or just with a spouse or partner, it doesn't make sense to have a membership to 2 or 3 different warehouse clubs where you're just going and tempted to buy in bulk all the time. You're basically going to put yourself in a position where you're paying membership fees on a recurring annual basis for all these clubs, and then also buying more than you actually need. And a lot of times when it's perishable goods, you'll end up just wasting those items. So for example, I used to be a member of one of these clubs, and I would always go and I would think to myself, hey, this is a great place for me to buy my fresh produce because it is at such a good price, and look at the quantity I'm buying. So obviously I would pick up a huge bag of apples for $8.99 because at a grocery store you can get 5 apples for $8 sometimes. So I'd buy a bag, 6-pound bag, but guess what? I would only have maybe 4 or 5 apples out of that entire bag before it spoiled. So basically what was happening was I was not only wasting my money, but I was wasting food in the process. So evaluate that situation too. If you don't need to have warehouse club memberships, don't have warehouse club memberships, or try to limit it to just one. And when you do shop at those places, try to look for items that have a long shelf life. Maybe you buy your dry goods from there, maybe you buy your toiletries from there, maybe you buy your electronics or vacations or things that make sense to buy from a warehouse club when you're a smaller family. And then things like produce or large items in bulk that could spoil pretty quickly, just go to your regular grocery store to purchase those items. Now this next thing is definitely one you're not going to want to skip, especially if it's just going to cost you a little bit of money up front, and that is doctors or dentist visits on a regular basis. You're definitely going to want to make sure that you go in for an annual checkup and you go in twice a year at minimum to get your teeth cleaned, because both of these things could end up costing you a lot more if you neglect them up front. And so you definitely don't want to skip out on visits to the dentist or your doctor, because those things could end up costing you so much more money down the road if you neglect them up front. Something like a root canal could end up costing a couple $1,000s. If you're unfortunately in a situation where you have a serious health condition, that could cost you thousands of dollars as well. So if you can, and if it only costs you your copay or a few extra bucks out of pocket, just make sure that you're doing those things and going for those routine checkups regularly so that doesn't cost you that much money long term. And finally, the last thing that might seem like a good way to cut corners and save a little extra cash, but that could actually cost you a lot more, is driving across town or making a long trip to save a few bucks, to buy a discounted item, to pump cheaper gas. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for you to drive 30 minutes out of your way to save 14 cents a gallon pumping gas. The wear and tear on your car alone, the gas that it costs to go out there, and the time itself are going to be way more valuable to you than the 14 cents a gallon. Just remember this. Let's say your car takes 20 gallons of gas. Most cars don't, but let's say your car takes 20 gallons of gas. If you're saving 14 cents a gallon, that is $2.80 for the whole tank. Does that make sense? Is that worth 30 minutes round trip or 30 minutes each way to go out of your way, to put miles on your car, to put wear and tear on your brakes, to spend more on gas getting out there and coming back? Your time. Is it worth an hour of time? Is an hour of your time worth $2.80, or is it worth a lot more? Just remember that when you're bargain hunting and you're looking for gas or looking for something that you might save a few bucks on, but you have to really go out of your way, it doesn't make sense to do that. It'll end up costing you a lot more because the incidental cost of those trips will just outweigh the actual savings that you might get by going out there. Now, if it's an opportunity to save hundreds of dollars on an item or thousands of dollars on an item, then it makes sense, but you have to definitely weigh the benefit there before making a huge trip across town into another state just to save a few dollars. And I cannot emphasize this enough, this is the most important when it comes to saving a few cents per gallon on gas. All right guys, well that's all I had for this video. Are there any other items that you think that you shouldn't cut corners on because it ends up costing you a lot more on the back end? If there are, or if you can think of any, just let me know in the comments down below. If you are new to the channel or haven't done so already, please take a moment and just click the subscribe button down below as well. I really do appreciate the support and it really does help grow the channel. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and we'll see you next time.